Talks of replacing President Biden as a Democratic nominee grows within the party. What is up, people of the internet? It is me, Real American, back in with a new video, and today it is time to talk about the 2024 presidential election, because before the first presidential debate, most people agreed that, yeah, Biden was going to be the Democrat nominee, and some people thought that there was the possibility that he gets thrown off the ticket, but the vast majority of people thought, okay, Biden was going to be the nominee no matter what, just for the simple fact it's June. There's no way in hell they're going to replace him this late. Well, as it turns out, Biden had a historically bad debate performance. It was so bad that now we have Democrats openly admitting there's a talk within the party about maybe, just maybe, replacing Biden with someone different. Now, before we continue with today's video, I hope you enjoy these type of videos. If you do, smash the like button down below, subscribe, share with your friends, hit that little bell, follow the social media accounts in the description down below, and of course, join the channel today. Again, folks, all support is greatly appreciated, and yeah. Now, I do want to be clear that I am not saying for 100% certainty that Biden will be replaced. I still think, despite Democrats maybe wanting to change the candidate, I just think it's too late to do so. I really do. But there's still the possibility now. It's much more than it was just 2 days ago. Because that performance was so bad that the vast majority of people agree that, okay, this guy's gone. There's some serious problems with him. We're not going to support him no matter what. And that's why Democrats are now talking about, hey, maybe we should move on for Biden. So let's get into it. Joe Biden's spotty debate performance immediately triggered new questions from worried Democrats about whether he would leave the presidential race. It would not be an easy process since Biden is already the Democrats' presumptive nominee and the overwhelming choice of primary voters. He faced little opposition during the primary season, and the fact they won nearly all of the party's delegates means it's unlikely he'd be forced out of the race against his will. And that's the first major problem. He has virtually every single delegate. This isn't a situation like in 2016 where Bernie got, like 40% of the delegates or whatever. No. Biden has like 95% of the delegates here. And ironically, them screwing Bernie over back in 2016 and 2020 forced them in this situation. Because now these delegates, they're bound to Biden no matter what. And that's the problem they have. Even if they want to get rid of him, the rules they establish make it where, no, they as of now cannot get rid of him. They have to live with it. I find it super ironic that them screwing over Bernie Sanders back in 2016 effectively put them in this position, because they hated Bernie Sanders so much that they upend the entire process just to screw him over for Hillary Clinton. Well, guess what? It's backfiring now, because now they're stuck with Biden. And even if they want to get rid of him, at this point in time, you would have to change the entire process within the Democratic Party. Is it possible? Maybe. But I don't think a lot of people are going to be happy if they see at the DNC, oh yeah, by the way, we just changed the rules where we can get rid of Biden and yeah, you can't do anything about it. If they in fact do that, that could crack the Democrat Party into two. Because there's been a lot of people pissed off like, what the hell? We supported Biden. And now you're going to say, no, actually, despite him winning 99.9% of the delegates, we're not going to make him the nominee. That current primary system, which empowers primary voters over party bigwigs, essentially sprang from discontent after Democrats selected Vice President Humphrey as their nominee in 1968. Oh, yeah, sure. Yeah, tell Bernie Sanders that both times. The fact that they're pretending to say that, oh, this is a very democratic system we got, when they have super delegates. I mean, just really? Even after President Johnson bowed out of the presidential race that year, recognizing his fading popularity in opposition to the war in Vietnam, Humphrey represented a continuation of Johnson's Vietnam policy at the DNC in Chicago, which, once again, in 2024, the DNC is in Chicago. The parallels to 68 continue. I mean, seriously. Lyndon B. Johnson dropped out late in the race, but that's kind of misleading because that was like in March. What we're talking about here is in June or July, or hell, even August. That's what, 5 to 6 months after the fact when Lyndon B. Johnson dropped out? So If he would have dropped out 4 or 5 months ago, Biden, it would have been more possible. It still would have been unlikely, but it would have made more sense. Now, though, well, Democrats are kind of stuck. We are in June and almost July, for crying out loud. So we're not talking about the exact same situation, but it is similar, where Johnson, after doing awful in the first couple of primaries, he dropped out. His popularity sank, and he decided, screw it, I'm not running for re-election. Things will be very different in 2024 if Biden decided to leave the race, although Democrats' convention will return to Chicago in August. As we first wrote back in February, if the leading candidate was to drop out of the campaign after most primaries, or even during the convention, individual delegates would need to select the party's nominee on the convention floor, or potentially during a virtual roll call. In other words, this is going to be a shit show, if this even occurs, which I still have my doubts about. But if the polling gets so bad for Democrats where he's losing by like 15 points or something crazy, I'm not saying it's going to happen, but I guess it's possible that a bunch of people look at this and say to themselves, oh, hell no. We may not like Trump, but we are not voting for Biden. If that does in fact happen, I could see it, I guess. I still think that's like, it's just not going to happen. It's an unrealistic scenario. But even then, it exists. After that debate on Thursday, there's a possibility that, yeah, Biden decides to drop out. These delegates aren't just pledged to vote for Biden, they're also approved by his campaign. So while a majority of convention delegates could decide to pick a new nominee, doing so would require massive defections for the president's own supporters. And that's another problem. Because let's say, okay, Biden decides to stay in the race, but the Democrat Party's like, screw this guy, we gotta get rid of him. Let's attempt a coup at the convention. The problem is, 99% of the delegates are Biden delegates, and not only that, they were approved by his campaign. So these people are gonna support Biden, more than likely. You're talking about having over half of his supporters just bail on him. Is it possible? Maybe. But I just don't see that happening. I really don't. It also means that if Biden dropped out of the race, it would largely be Biden backers who would be responsible for picking his replacement. And that's quite frankly the biggest problem. The Democrat Party is effectively Biden's party. It's his people. They control everything. The DNC chair is a Biden person. Every delegate's someone that backs Biden. That's the problem here. If they want to get rid of Biden, they're going to effectively pick someone that Biden wants, or at least his top people want. The more you look into this, the more you realize they're in deep trouble. Because let's assume that, okay, Biden gets thrown out. Somehow, some way he gets thrown out and the Democrats pick a new nominee. Who would they pick? If they pick Kamala Harris, they would get absolutely crushed. Somehow Kamala Harris is more hated than Biden. I don't know how you do that, and you can argue even dumber than him. But either way, Kamala Harris is the VP. It would make total sense, but like I said, she would do awful electorally. If you pick Gavin Newsom, you're going to piss off half of your own party because guess what? A lot of voters within the Democrat Party want Kamala Harris, which is just dumb, but that's a reality of it. They want Kamala Harris because she's black and she's a woman. That's the reality of it. That's why they want her. Can you imagine if they decide to pick a white dude? The Democrat base would lose their shit because they don't want a white guy, especially one that's straight. And that's the sad reality of the Democrat Party. They focus more on identity politics than actual policy. That's the Democrat Party in a nutshell, which, by the way, that's going to screw them over long term. Hell, it could screw them over here. Because I'm not saying Gavin Newsom is a strong candidate, but the fact they're willing to pick Kamala Harris not because of policy, but because, oh, she's a black woman, that's a great reason. No, it's not. That's a shitty reason to pick someone as the president. If she's incompetent, who frickin' cares if, you know, she's a black woman or not? It doesn't matter. She should not be the president of the United States. So the more you look into this, there's just problems everywhere. And on top of everything, if Kamala Harris isn't the nominee, you effectively have to build a brand new campaign. Let's say Gavin Newsom becomes the nominee somehow. He has two major problems. One, the legal questions surrounding this are massive because There are state laws where you can't just change the nominee that late in the game. You just can't. There's a certain date for many states where by August 1st or whatever, in the state of Wisconsin or whatever, you have to have a nominee at that point in time. So, there's a chance that if you pick someone other than Biden, they're not going to be on the ballot in a state like Wisconsin. And not only that, but you have to build up a brand new campaign. Because guess what? If it's Newsom, you can't just transfer all that money, resources, whatever, into his campaign from Biden's. It's not that easy. It's a very difficult process if it's even allowed. So he would have to build a brand new campaign from the ground up. Does anyone really think that's possible? I don't. And that's why I think they're going to stick with Biden. If they didn't have to worry about any of that, yeah, of course, they probably would kick out Biden. But they just can't. Because there's some big legal questions if they even can. He's stubborn and refuses to drop out. If they force him off the ballot, there's going to be a massive riot at the convention. And even with all of that going perfectly, let's say they get him off the convention floor, they somehow get rid of him, whatever. You still have to build a brand new campaign from scratch. I don't see how that's possible. And the funny thing about all of this, Biden is still the Democrats' strongest candidate. Yeah. This was a brand new poll released yesterday, and Biden loses by 3. Well, that's the best performing number of any Democrat. Everyone else, and Harris is tied, I guess, but I guess Biden does slightly better. Either way, Biden is the strongest recruit against Trump. Everyone else, they get 44%, 43%, 43%. They would lose by even more. So I just find it hilarious that they're stuck in this situation where Biden, despite having arguably the worst debate performance ever, is still their best option, which should tell you everything about this quote-unquote bench they got. I mean, people like Gavin Newsom would get crushed. Same thing with Kamala Harris. Pete Buttigieg is never going to be the nominee. People like Cory Booker, why do they pull him? I don't know. I mean, I guess Josh Shapiro out of Pennsylvania could be a good recruit, but the problem is he's unknown. He is unknown to everyone outside of Pennsylvania. So he has to build a campaign from scratch within 5 months. No, that's not going to happen. You see the problem for the Democrat Party. They need everything to go right just for them to maybe, just maybe, get rid of Biden. But even if they somehow do, you could argue that they're worse off, which just, I can't believe that's even possible, but that's the reality of it. Their bench they got is awful. So either way, it's good news for Trump. If Biden's still the nominee, I think Trump wins. If it's anyone else, he wins even by a wider margin. Anyways, folks, thank you so much for watching. If you guys did enjoy this video, smash the like button down below, subscribe, share with your friends, hit that little bell, follow the social media accounts in the description down below, and of course, join the channel today. Godspeed to all of you.